Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Poe, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Madam Secretary. The GAO has reported that 44% of the border is somewhat secure, 56% is not secure. Do you agree with that statistic?
No, and I don't think that's exactly what they said, and I've testified to this several times, Representative. They were using the phrase operational control, which is a term of art within the Border Patrol. It's actually somewhat misleading because it doesn't capture not just the Border Patrol, but the technology and infrastructure that goes along with it.
So what would you say is secure?
Statement.
So it's not an accurate statement?
It is not an accurate statement,
right.
no.
So who controls the other 56% if we don't have operational control?
No, we have the responsibility for that entire border, as you know. It includes a record amount of manpower and technology and infrastructure we have put down at the border. It's a very different border than it was even 3 or 4 years ago.
I agree. It's worse. The Iranians apparently think our border is less secure than we do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to Mexico to work with supposedly the Zetas to smuggle in explosives into the United States. What do the Iranians know about the cross-border traffic of the Zetas or other drug cartels that we're missing? In my opinion, the Zetas, other drug cartels they have access to the United States. They have access back to Mexico. It seems like the Iranians obviously know something about the lax border than we do. The Bureau of Prisons says that 27% of the people in the federal penitentiary, 27%, are foreign criminal aliens. That means they are illegally in the United States when they commit a felony. All of those 27%, a fourth of the population in the federal penitentiaries, got here some way. And they got here illegally, according to the statistics of the Bureau of Prisons. And if the border is so secure, let me give you some insight as to the Texas border, where I have been numerous times in areas that aren't exactly as safe as you claim. The sheriffs, on any given day, we will call the sheriffs in the border jails and say, how many people are in your jail that are foreign nationals, not criminal aliens, foreign nationals? The most recent one is have the border counties, and the average is about 34.5% of the people in Texas border jails are from foreign countries. Now, these are cross-border criminals. These are people who come in the United States. Many of them commit their crimes, and then they go back where they came from into Mexico unless they're caught by local law enforcement. These aren't people in jail with immigration violations. Based on your experience, do you think 34% is a high number of foreign nationals in anybody's jail?
Well,
I mean, either you do or you don't.
Listen.
I am listening. You listen. Answer the question. You're a lawyer. You know to answer the question and not just ramble so that the time expires. Do you think 34.5% of the people in jail being from foreign countries is a high number or not?
The border communities in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California have either had violent crime rates the same or decreasing in the last 5 years, and dramatically so. They're listed, El Paso, Austin, San Diego, among the safest communities in the United States. We have, and that...
Reclaiming my time. Sorry, reclaiming my time. I'm not talking about specific towns, El Paso. The crime is in between the ports of entry. It's not necessarily in Brownsville or San Diego or in the city of El Paso. The crime is in between. The jails are occupied by 34% foreign nationals. My question is simple. Do you think that's a high number? Either you do or you don't.
Well, that's one of the if that's accurate, and I don't know that it's accurate. If it is accurate, it's one of the reasons we installed secure communities in the border jails first.
Let me ask you another question. The 20-point deferred prosecution memo that came out, Mr. Morton testified that there was White House input on that. Do you agree with his statement when he testified before us that there was White House input on the 20 points of deferred prosecution?
Well, I think the memo was prosecutorial discretion, not
That's
deferred
correct. I'm sorry.
prosecution.
Prosecution discretion.
Well, because immigration involves two major agencies, DHS and DOJ, it is entirely appropriate, and yes, there was coordination with the White House.
Do you know of statutory authority, not court authority, statutory authority for deferred prosecution? Congress, that's us. Congress passing laws allowing for deferred prosecution. Or prosecutorial discretion, I'm sorry, prosecutorial discretion.
Well, forget Congress. You go back to Article 2, Sections 1 and 3 of the Constitution.
Well, of course, the Constitution does say that the Congress is to be responsible for naturalization and making the laws on naturalization, not the executive branch. So if you want to quote the Constitution, you might want to read that section as well.
Article 2, Section 3 says the executive branch shall make sure the laws are carried out, and that has been interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court and by statute to mean
What's the
that the
statute?
executive branch has prosecutorial discretion.
Didn't ask you about the Heckler case. You notice I didn't ask you about that. I'm asking about constitutional, legislative, statutory authority to ignore portions of the law based on a memo. Is there statutory authority to do that?
Well,
and the Constitution does say wait a minute, I'm talking. The Constitution does say that the executive branch is to enforce the law of the land. Carefully enforce the law of the land. And it seems to me the executive branch is giving a pass to a lot of folks under the guise of prosecutorial discretion. I'll yield back my time.
Okay. The gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Yeah.
Or would you like
Madam
me to wait?
Secretary, please respond to the question. Sure.
Yeah, I would simply say that prosecutorial discretion by prosecutors, by immigration, has been enforced and done by Republican and Democratic administrations, and it makes sense.
Okay. And let me also add and say to the gentleman from Texas that the GAO study that he referred to, which found that only 44% of the border was under operational control, found that only 15% of the border was under actual control. So it's a lot less than many people might think. The gentlewoman from California, Ms.